The module of learning determines how a teacher will use assessment. Did you ever think about that? That as a teacher, you could use assessment in very, very different ways. In this module, you're going to take a look at the different kinds of learning environments and how assessment may be used in those different environments. There's not a cut and clear answer. I want you to think about it. All right, so what are you going to do? First, you're going to spend some time thinking about the learning environments and the models out there. We're going to try to limit ourselves a little bit because, of course, there's tons of models. First, I'd like you to look at, the blended learning environments, and those are probably the most prevalent these days, actually. So you can look at this article. You can also find some resources online on the different kinds of blended learning environments out there. But if you're not familiar with that, you might want to take a look at it. The other learning environment that most of you are very familiar with is the traditional environment, which is the face-to-face environments, sometimes referred to as brick and mortar, not book and mortar. And then there's the environments that are 100% online. And of course, that's kind of what we're doing right now, 100% online. So I just want you to be familiar with them. We're not going to study them in depth. But I want you to know that, there are these different environments out there. But regardless of the learning environment that's there, the model is traditionally time-based. And we call that the Carnegie unit, that time-based module, because it was established in 1906. And that was when we equated the learning that should occur in a particular amount of time. So I want you to understand, this was not always believed. In fact, when education was only given to the rich, when it was not given to everybody, okay, remember when education was given to the rich, it was 100% competency-based or personalized learning, right? Because you worked one-on-one with the tutor. But it was when we went to compulsory education and we started educating the masses that we said, okay, we've got to figure out a way to do this. The Carnegie unit was established. But now, different kinds of learning have emerged. Competency-based learning and personalized learning. Now, these models have really always been there. It's not like they're new and they're brand new. However, they have gained more momentum because of technology. Montessori, for example, has always had a competency-based model and personalized learning model used. So Montessori education has always had that, and different models do, but this is what's emerging as the norm. So what are you to do with this? You're to learn a little bit about competency-based and personalized education, get a handle on them, and then we want you to think about this a little bit. Think about what it would look like in the learning environment that you're in. So don't worry that, it's just online, but what would a competency-based or personalized learning look like in your environment, wherever you are an instructor or the one that you're the closest to if you're not a direct instructor. Maybe you're part of an organization or thinking about becoming part of an organization. So what would it look like there? And then this one, how is assessment used differently in that environment? This is the one that you're not going to find an article on. Well, there is one, and there's probably some out there, but I want you to really think about it. And next, what are some questions or concerns that you still have? Because I'm sure there's some out there. And we have one person that was so nice to provide an example for us, and that's basically how we want you to think about it. But think about it for your environment and where you are. Next. In learning environments, whether it's actually an online environment, okay, or a face-to-face, we take tests. And actually, even in online environments, there is some paper-based testing. However, most of us are not aware of the research that is out there. So in here, you're going to learn about paper-based and also online testing, and so that you can have that understanding in your mind and what we're asking of our learners. And lastly, and then, sorry, let me go back. And you'll, of course, add to the discussion there. You have some choices on how you want to respond, okay? All right, next. You are going to create a quiz that is online. You're going to use Google Forms. Now, whether or not the environment that you're in, whether it's face-to-face or online, you have to create quizzes. And one of the cool things about doing some things online is that it can be really helpful. And we'll even talk about that more as we move on. So we want you to have the experience of using Google Forms. Please make sure you look at some of the guidelines on the slides that are given, and that will probably help you in how to write your questions on Google Forms. So here's some YouTube videos and ideas so that you can have some support on how to use Google Forms for a quiz, not a survey, a quiz. If you're not in a K-12 environment or not in a higher ed environment where you have content to create a form, think about, if you're teaching teachers or teaching other people, what are the kinds of things you test them on? You might actually test them on customer service, and that's okay. You might test them on where to find different features within an organization. That's okay too. You might test them on how to use an LMS. Even if it doesn't amount to a letter grade, it amounts to something that you want your people to know. And then once you have that, you want to put your quiz link in here, the content that it's about, your name. You want to write how you thought about it and how you thought about writing questions and what guidelines you applied. And that goes back up to this presentation, this PowerPoint presentation, to help you on that. And then I want you to think, all right, I did this. How do you think it could help me? Predict, how do you think it could help you? And that is it. So this week, hopefully it's interesting to you. It's not as many odds and ends this week. And we're going to bring it all together next week when we look at some of our data. We'll also do a little bit more with assessment in a quiz format or close-ended format, but we'll also begin to touch on the value of that openness. So that's when we will begin next week, start evaluating our results and saying, hey, how could this be useful to me? Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing your cool quizzes.